I've started to recite the four-way test. So if you'll say it with me, number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. And now we have Ann Sheets, retired CEO of Campfire, for introductions.
Thank you, President-elect Courtney. It's an honor today to introduce three guests who are here in person with us. Marcus Knight, who is the guest of Richard Knight. Chavoyd Hamilton, the guest of Mark Maurer. And Brandon Gingelbach, guest of Sean Snell. We're pleased that all of you are here. And for those of you on Zoom, if you are a guest, please type your name in the chat box and indicate who your Rotarian friend is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann. And next up, the moment you all been waiting for, our newscast delivered by past President Ames Bender, Principal of Bender Andrade Architects.
Thank you. I feel about as welcome as an election official at the White House. I know. Y'all have heard that there was an election about a month ago, right? I just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. I was checking because apparently that news has not reached certain quarters of our nation's capital. Okay. I know I'm not supposed to get political up here, so I promise the next story will be the last with political content. President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris have unveiled, cue the pounding disco music, ladies' night at the administration, where drinks will be half price all term long for all you eligible, intelligent ladies who believe in science, the rule of law, and the Constitution. Biden and Harris announced an historic string of female appointees to positions of leadership throughout the upcoming administration. These include Janet Yellen for Secretary of the Treasury, Neera Tanden for Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Linda Thomas Greenfield for Ambassador to the UN, the White House Counsel, the Deputy White House Chiefs of Staff, and an all-woman White House communication staff. You go, girls. You go. I mean, you go, women. You go. You go. Moving on to the story that has dominated everyone's life for the past 9 months, the COVID-19 pandemic. There is absolutely nothing humorous on this topic, and I wouldn't dare go there. But I cannot rightly do a newscast without at least mentioning the subject. So I've mentioned it. I'm now following it with the PSA we all know all too well. Please wear a mask, please wash your hands, and please practice social distancing. If not for yourself, for me. I mean everybody. Some good news on the corona front. Fort Worth Rotary's own Mayor Betsy Price has herself recovered from a case of COVID-19. We are all thankful. The mayor's recovery came in time for her to join Fort Worth City Manager David Cook in announcing the city's plans to purchase the former Pier 1 headquarters building to become the new City Hall. Personally, this newscaster thinks it's a brilliant move. It makes economic sense. It's an iconic building that will serve the city well into the future. And hopefully no one will ever again have to go and experience the basement bowels of our City Hall in order to get a building permit. Moving to holiday news, Christmas tree lightings have begun across the nation. Rockefeller Center in New York City lit their famous tree earlier this week to a crowd of zero. The traditional lighting ceremony, with thousands of onlookers filling the blocks around the tree, was canceled. Sundance Square has followed the same formula. The Christmas tree is burning bright, but alas, there was no parade of lights and the formal lighting of the tree. Even though the crowds are not there, the twinkling lights of this year's tree provide us with a much needed holiday spirit. Speaking of holiday spirit, combined with no place but Texas, our neighbor to the east is going large, going big. Tonight at the Galleria Mall, in the center of the ice rink, Big D will light the world's largest indoor Christmas tree. That's cool. That kind of for our quiet, serene, socially distanced outdoor tree there in Sundance. In sporting news, everything is topsy-turvy. The Masters was played without any roars, but it was still exhilarating to see the drone coverage of storied Augusta National with its flowering azaleas and dogwoods replaced with fall foliage. Congratulations to Dustin Johnson for winning his first of what should be many green jackets. The NFL schedule has become very fluid. Due to COVID-19 outbreaks, numerous games have been rescheduled. The Cowboys' latest game was rescheduled from last night to next Tuesday. The Denver Broncos had to play their last game with a quarterback who was really a wide receiver, who hadn't taken a snap since his sophomore year in college. He completed 3 of 7 passes. Unfortunately, 2 of them were to the New Orleans Saints. I place the over-under for the number of games each team will play before the COVID shuts the whole thing down at 14. Any takers? College football is not faring much better. Some teams have played as many as 9 games, while other teams have played only 3. The current Associated Press Top 25 is populated with such traditional football powerhouses as Coastal Carolina, the Indiana Hoosiers, Louisiana, not LSU, no, it's the Raging Cajuns of Lafayette, who dat, and my personal favorite, Liberty University. That's right, Jerry Falwell's Liberty University is in the top 25. It's hard to see how they can crown a definitive national champion this year, but they are certainly giving it a good old college try. And on that note, the weather this weekend is going to be beautiful this weekend, partly sunny and reaching the 60s. Go out and enjoy the holiday season at a safe distance. Thank you.
And next, we'll have a first reading from our Secretary, Blake Mormons, Acting Director of Sales and Marketing, Fort Worth Convention Center.
Thank you, President-elect Courtney. We have, yes, one first reading today. The name is Dr. Kim McCushion, Tarleton State University, Fort Worth, Vice President and Dean, Classification, Higher Education, Proposer, Carlo Capawa. If no written objection is received in the Rotary office by next Friday, December 11, 2020, this proposal will be given a second reading and voted on by the club. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. And now I want to give you a reminder that it is time to select our next board of directors. Voting is open for the board of directors. So far, 98 of you have voted, so we need more people to vote. You should have received another email yesterday with a direct link to vote online. If not, please contact Aurora or President Carlo. Voting closes on Thursday, December the 10th. I have been told that Bill Fairley will request a recount either way the election goes. So please vote one time and one time only. And if you need that link, contact Aurora or President Carlo. And next we have Wayne Trimmer. He will introduce our speaker today. Wayne is with a partner with Aquarian Capital and director at Wilson, Hermal and Company. Thank you.
Thank you, President-elect Courtney. Well, it's an honor to introduce our guest speaker today. And I have a little bit of a family tie to the trucking industry, so I'm privileged to be able to be here to introduce Bill Kahn today. So to give you a little background from the experiences that he's had, I'm going to just read a little bit from the rotograph. So first of all, his education is Texas A&M University. He has a engineering degree, and I'd like to mention my daughter's a sophomore at A&M. So I'm learning all those hand signals myself and what it's like to be part of the Aggie spirit. Bill was also part of the Corps of Cadets, which says a lot for any individual attending A&M. So for the past 20 years after graduating from A&M, in fact, 30 years, he's worked in aerospace and defense initially, and then segue into the trucking industry at Peterbilt for the last 20 years. So his current job at Peterbilt Motors here in North Texas, up in Denton, is manager of advanced concepts, and he's the principal engineer for Peterbilt. My own personal experience, which kind of makes this interesting, my dad, I grew up in Florida. My dad worked at the Space Center for NASA, and after the Apollo projects, we thought we'd get in the trucking business. So what did? We thought the two best trucks out there, at least my dad did, was Peterbilt and Kenworth. We selected Peterbilt. We purchased some Peterbilt trucks and a couple of trailers, and we hauled what is called swinging beef out of Barstow, Florida, to New York City. So that was kind of an experience. So my dad did that for about 10 years or so. So quite an experience growing up, seeing trucks and understanding what it's like to have a 13-speed gearbox. Now I understand a lot of them are automatic. Some of them are autonomous, assisted, and we'll hear more about that. So with that, Bill, welcome again to Rotary, and take the lectern. Thank you.
Man, it's great to be out of the office. I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. I'm kind of an extroverted engineer, so I look at other people's shoes, not just my own. But as a senior principal engineer at Peterbilt, I'm probably the most knowledgeable person at Peterbilt. I didn't say I'm smart, but I'm very knowledgeable, and I know who the smart people are. So really, really great to be here. At Peterbilt Motors, I make cool trucks. That's what I do. I do it every day. We do about 140 trucks a day. And if you look at the lineup you see up here, across the bottom is our on-highway trucks. That's a little deceptive because the base model is our Model 579, and then we put different sleepers behind it, depending on what the driver wants to do and how much room he wants and things like that. And then we also do vocational trucks up on the top. You'll see we have our classic long nose truck. That's what everybody thinks about over the days is that Peterbilt. We got vocational. We take that nice aerodynamic hood off the truck, and then we'll put a vocational hood on it. That's because they like to break things out in vocational land. And so that's why it's easy to replace. And then we also have medium duty trucks. Our medium duty trucks are actually made in St. Therese, Quebec. So, and then we bring them down to North America. The truck you'll see fourth from the right, the cab over, low cab forward, that is our refuse truck. If it's a Mack, it's a garbage truck. If it's a Peterbilt, it's a refuse truck, okay? And we actually build those down in Mexico, and bring them up to the States from there. So again, that's our full lineup. But people don't really realize that we're in Denton, Texas. These are Texas trucks for Texas people. And so all the engineering that I'm doing, I'm actually helping people in Texas. Founded in 1939, that was T.A. Peterman. He was as a logger. He thought he could do better in making trucks. And so he founded the Peterbilt company. And then we got bought by. Okay, thank you back. I thought about putting my laptop up here, but it's so big I didn't think it, wouldn't fit. We got bought by the PACCAR, Pacific Rail and Car Company. You'll know them. They're the ones that built the Space Needle in Seattle. And they joined us with Kenworth trucks. And then later on, about 20 years ago, we bought DAF Trucks of Europe. Great move, because if you look at it, we kind of cycle between Europe and America as far as the economy. They'll be up or we'll be down, or vice versa. And so we always have a very stable profile. We are the most productive, the most profitable automotive company in American history. I'm telling you, 80 years of continuous profit from one company, always paying a dividend. Should have brought my laptop up here. Again, in 1980, we opened up our facility in Denton, Texas. Everybody comes to me and says, Bill, how many people work at Denton? I tell them about half, But it's amazing if you get to see the picture of the facility. In that same footprint of buildings, we used to make 26 trucks a day, and now we make 140 trucks a day. And we could go up to 200 trucks a day. What's the hardest part about a truck? Making a truck, what limits you? The ability to paint a truck. Painting is the hardest thing we got to do, so we got to take care of that. All right. Just for reference, back in 2018, we produced 40,000 trucks in 1 year. We'll do about 40 this year, even with the pandemic, because trucking is the most important thing there is. Anything you got came on a truck, and so that's why it's important. As I said, here's our plant, 2,400 employees. Those are the people that work out in the plant. We have about 200 engineers that do all the design work. We're up in the front building that you see there. The main assembly plant is in the middle, and then we just opened a test building out in the back. So the trucks roll off the assembly lines, they go into the dynos, they get tested, final inspection, they get parked. If you think about it, every truck is basically one semi truck full of parts. So if you're building 140 trucks a day, you've got to bring in 140 containers a day of parts, because we do just-in-time manufacturing. If you thought about it, each truck had 10 wheels on it, and you had 140 trucks. That's a lot of tires you have to be sitting around. And so we do everything just in time. If you want to have my laptop, I can use my laptop. Yep. You pick it up with these, By the way, y'all didn't know me and Sean, we have a very close relationship. She gets up every Saturday morning thinking about me because I teach her indoor cycling class, okay? LA Fitness Highland Village, if y'all want to come and join us, we're glad to see you. Oh, now you can't see me. Good. We're moving. All right. Uptime is everything in our business. And it's our motto. It's what we live by. When these trucks sit around on the road for an hour, a day, it is lost revenue for the driver. And they will become very agitated very quickly when that happens. So our immediate focus is to be able to keep these trucks running 100% of the time. If you think about it, right now, our engines will actually have a fault. They will automatically call the fleet owner, and they will automatically tell that truck driver whether he needs to stop or if he can keep on going. Our trucks are built to go 1 million miles. It's 20 years of life. And they test them to 2 million. Trucking is a very hard hardware problem. So do it with somebody you like, okay? I lead the innovation area. So it's really fun. We're going to talk about a place called the Innovation Center. All that work that you see going on there actually started in my group up in Denton. But we moved the center out to California so that we can be more closer to the people that are moving, innovating, and creating new technology. Don't know if any of y'all seen the truck on the bottom left. They got 2 million hits. That's right. That's the Walmart Advanced Vehicle Experience. We did that truck from the ground up. It's a turbine-powered range extending series hybrid. It was ahead of its time. Now everybody is in that space of electric trucks. Electric trucks can't go that far, so then you want to add a generator to them. You have a range extender. My areas of work are mainly in autonomous driving and advanced powertrains. One of my goals is I look at new technology and I try to plan a roadmap into our production. And so I have things that are very expensive and things that people don't know they want. So battery electric trucks are an example of an expensive thing, and autonomous trucks are an example of what can it do for me. So we're going to talk about those areas. Autonomous trucks are going to change the world of trucking, much like the iPhone did. How many years ago? What year did the iPhone come out? 2007. That's close. So good job on that. We're going to change the trucking industry. We're not getting rid of jobs. We're making their jobs better because they can be at home more, if that's a good thing. They will go into regional routes, but we can take care of a lot of the long distance. How do we do it? We look out. We look, we see, we understand what's out there. We plan a course for evaluation action, and then we execute that. If you see that truck on the left, it's very exemplary of what our trucks do. They have long-range cameras out there on the front. Those cameras look out 1,000 yards and can tell what's going on out in front of them. They look at and they use machine learning. They look at this light and that bumper, and they can figure out what kind of vehicle it is within milliseconds. Then they can tell which direction it's going and whether it's going to affect us and whether we need to avoid it or not. As I like to say, self-driving trucks are easy. It's not running over things that's hard, and it's very hard. If you think about it, we're going down the road, we're doing 60 miles an hour. That's about 30 meters per second. So it's important that we see out there at long range and that we can decide whether we need to avoid something or whether we can just go over it. I deal with the people from Google, Waymo, a lot. They come to me and they said, Bill, what about a tire in the road? What do you do? I said, well, we run over those treads a lot. People load those treads. And then he goes, well, what about the whole tire? I said, I wouldn't want to do it because it could tear something up. He said, well, their tires are hard to see because they're rubber. They're black. They absorb shapes. He said, what about the wheel being in there? That wheel in there, that could really tear you up. I said, how about if we assume that somebody before you knocked it off the road before you got there? And let's don't spend a lot of time on these edge cases, because when you're doing the autonomous trucking, you've got to really focus on what you can solve, which is 90% of it. And then 10% becomes the fringe cases that you got to work out for, that you got to watch out for. If you look also on the truck, you see the round disc. Those are LiDARs. It's really a radar. It's a 3D radar. So it's a series of bandpass. It paints a picture. And so we can localize where we are in the world. If you think about this truck, it's driving from Phoenix to Dallas every day. 95% of what it's going to see, it sees the day before. It's only when we get to those things like construction that we have to be able to deal with having to slow down and redirect real time. You're going to see these trucks out there. They're going to be here soon, probably 2 years, driving from Phoenix to Dallas. Southern climates, good weather, good roads, and that's what they'll do. Also, we have the radars on the truck as well. So we got 3 levels of sensoring on the vehicle, all stacked on, and that aids the computer on the truck to make a decision on what it needs to do. These are all my trucks. These are my people. So top left, you got Embark. We got Aurora in the middle, 2 simple top left, plus AI, bottom right. We even have Waymo Google in the middle, and Ike Robotics. It's really funny because you think about 2 of these people, they came from the robo-taxi group. They came from automobiles, autonomous automobiles, because they realized that trucks are easier. We got fewer things to look at. We got 1/10 of things we got to look at. We usually have good roads and we usually see pretty good. And so people are jumping off of that into the autonomous truck realm. We call it kind of like the genetic gene pool. It's like 3 guys broke off and they formed a trucking company to do autonomous trucks, like Ike Robotics. And then one of those people will jump ship and they will open up their own trucking company, development company. The middle bottom truck, Aurora, that's Chris Umson's company. He was the head guy at Waymo Autonomy, Google Autonomy. So got some really good people working on this. If we can take it down just a little bit, you can double the productivity of a truck by just having it follow the vehicle in front of it. Now at level 4, we've actually taken the driver out of the seat and he can sit back in the back while the truck follows the truck in front of him. Because we mandate that everybody takes time off during their driving. You can only drive 10 hours a day right now because they're afraid you'll get fatigued, which is a poor metric these days when you have self-driving trucks that are doing all the work and the person has very little to do to actively drive the vehicle. So we can increase the productivity of the trucks by having him driving while he's on break, or we take the guy out and we put him in the front seat of the other drive, and that truck can run 24 hours a day now, and you double the productivity of the team because they've got 2 trucks. With that, I'm going to transition over my other love, and it's what we call alternative fuels. Everybody wants alternative fuels, and it's a great thing. The problem is diesel is such a dang good fuel because it's got a lot of energy density. And so it's like you think about, if you got this much, you go on a diesel tank of gas on a truck, you can go about this far. If you go into LNG, liquefied natural gas, same size on the truck, you only go this far. CNG, hydrogen, batteries. So the energy density is very, very important. And so here you see some of the effective ranges that we can do with the diesel truck. LNG, all our LNG comes from Houston, Texas. That's because you got to gasify it, you got to liquefy natural gas. CNG is great. It comes out of the ground. We can use it. And everybody right now is on hydrogen and batteries. And the key there is it's zero emission. Everybody wants zero emission. California loves zero emission. They have a lot of grants to offset the cost of these trucks to try to get them out there. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But the key is, and then in CNG, if you get the CNG from the landfill or something like that where it's renewable, then you technically are a zero emission fuel because it's the diesel truck, we're working every day to make it even better and better and better. And the key there is that you've got we know the energy content of diesel. It's pretty straightforward. But just getting it out of the engine itself, you lose about 40%. You only left about 47% of that energy because of the valve trains and friction and temperatures. And so we got to use that 47% as efficiently as possible to get the truck rolling. So we like low rolling resistance, we do aerodynamics, and we do lightweighting, all trying to really push the abilities, the range of that truck. This is Super Truck One program. It's a couple years old. They were able to get 10.7 miles per gallon out of our current truck just by going to an advanced engine design and some of the features I've already talked about. Super Truck 2 is underway right now. We're actually going to redo the shape of the vehicle in addition to the powertrain, in addition to all the other things we talked about, aerodynamics, and we expect to get 15 miles per gallon out of that truck. And that's because, again, we do that by driving it just right. You have a certain gap between your trailer and your cab, so the airflow is as seamless as possible. You stay on cruise control for 97, 98% of the time, because every time you introduce the human factor into it, you get a lot of deviation in the driving and the acceleration. So project I'm working on right now is very interesting because you think about it, the diesel engine we have today has been around for 100 years, the straight six diesel. What happens if we took it and we took 3 cylinders and we put opposing pistons in them and we ran them up like this? 2-stroke, no valves, no valve train, very efficient, superior fuel economy, great energy packaging, possible up to a 55% thermal efficiency on that engine. That's good stuff. Like I said, we're getting a 13-liter power out of 11-liter engine. So we have high energy density, lighter weight because we have fewer moving parts. We don't have valve trains. So a lot of potential here, and we're trying to validate that this engine technology can work. Most important thing is it can do 2027 missions today that we don't have designed yet for our regular diesel engines. For my friends in the warbird industry, it sounds a lot like a warbird. I ain't gonna lie to you, that thing's hard. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. If you look at all the harnessing laying off the side, they gave us that engine directly out of a test cell, and we had to define the interface into the vehicle. It's a 6-foot tall diesel engine. So it's really cool, but it's hard. So now I'm gonna transition over to the battery electric trucks. Our focus now is we've just gone into production with our battery electric trucks. This is what it is. It's right here. This is what we call a 2170. You know why it's a 2170 cell? 21 millimeters diameter. 70 millimeters long. Don't overthink it. Top left truck. How many batteries do I need in that top left truck to make it power? One truck? How much? 33,000 batteries in that one truck. And that will only get you 150 miles. So that's why it's very important to understand these are not diesel replacement trucks. These are purpose-built electric machines. And you have to find what part of your industry, what part of your duty cycle, what part of your application batteries make sense. A battery only has so many cycles in it. This battery right here has got 4,000 cycles in it. If you drive all day and you charge it up you fast charge it, get it back on the road, the length of that truck just came in half. So you don't want to overdo it on your cycles if you don't have to. That's why these trucks aren't made for everybody. They're very purpose-built vehicles. You see top right, top left, our top right one, that's our electric refuse truck. Refuse truck, right? People love it. You thought you forgot to put the trash out before. Wait till this thing comes by down the road, not making any noise. And it's going to pick it up. It doesn't go very far because it's got to pick up a lot of cans. So you got to run the hydraulics on it. So it's only 80 miles, but it's 900 bins. You really want that truck because that's when it's close in. It's in your neighborhood. It's operating around your kids. And so you really want that low emissions capability. And then we have our medium duty truck about 200 miles. And again, Amazon loves that truck. PepsiCo Frito-Lay loves that truck because they have sustainability goals that they want to meet in serving you. And that's the kind of people you want delivering your groceries to you. Fuel cells are the buzzword now. A fuel cell is basically a battery that doesn't store energy. It's a chemical reaction. It's hydrogen and oxygen over a permeable membrane. You're not going to believe this, though. They really don't want to give up their electrons. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of high pressure to push those gases through the cell, and that produces a lot of heat. So they're very complex trucks. They love to talk about zero emissions and that they're better than a electric charge because electric trucks, you don't have to charge them. They will refuel in the time it takes to fill a diesel truck, which is a good thing. The bad thing is the hydrogen doesn't exist anywhere. It doesn't ever. You've got to make hydrogen from something. So you see people that want to make it, they want to take it, they want to use solar farms to try to break the oxygen, break the hydrogen from the H2O, or they have to use electricity. And if you're going to use electricity, you might as well just make an electric truck, because it takes 33 kilowatt hours of energy to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen. And I can go 5-6 miles on a kilogram of hydrogen, but I can go 33 miles on 33 kilowatts of electricity. So again, it's got some great advantages to it. Infrastructure is a challenge. And most importantly, energy density is a challenge. That truck will only go 300 miles. That whole sleeper back in the back is hydrogen because it's such a gaseous fuel. It takes up a lot of space. Right now, these trucks are expensive. And like I said, we've got to get the infrastructure out. The good thing is we have the electric truck already. So all we do is take the batteries off of the truck. We put the fuel cell on the truck and we power the electric chassis using the fuel cell. Like I said, there's things that you got to do because it doesn't run like a diesel engine. So you've got to do air handling. You got to pressurize that air up to get it go through those cells. You got to cool that unit down. It has to be humid. A dry fuel cell will not produce electricity. So you got to contain the humidity in it. So it's a very interesting opportunity to work on fuel cell trucks. The great thing is that we have Hillwood Mobility Zone out here. This is exactly what we need because now we have the technology. Now we have to go out there and roll it out. I can't sell an electric truck to one person. There's got to be enough of it because of the infrastructure required for charging trucks. There's got to be enough people around to warrant putting a hydrogen fueling station on it. That's why Hillwood is so important, because that's where it brings it all together. We got electric trucks that can go in and they can pick up things and move them from the trains to the planes and on the highways easily to within DFW. That's all within the range of our electric vehicles. We've got our autonomous trucks. They can't do downtown Dallas. They can do Alliance Airport, because if it gets downtown, it's not going to know what to do. It will always go on the air of safety. And so it will sit there and wait and probably never even get where it's going. So we got to keep their routes out in the proximity of the metroplexes, but we don't want them actually coming in. And again, when you got a place like Hillwood, you can go in there, you can put your marshaling yards in there. The trucks come in, they either get trains to a trailer that can go locally, or they get emptied out and put onto a train for intermodal express. With that, if you have any questions, I'd love to talk about trucks. That's what I do. So, yes, sir.
How much is a brand new Peterbilt diesel?
How many do you want? It's really funny because you think about it. And even I'm an engineer. You know, I like data, but it really depends on how many you want to buy. But retail price is usually about $274,000. Then you go to the deal that goes from the salesman to our onboard seller. They look at it based on what kind of customer you are. They'll get you probably down to about 160. And if we're having a sale, you can probably do it for about 130. So 130 is a good price for a diesel truck. Electric truck is going to cost you $350,000. Fuel cell truck is going to cost you $750,000 because they're all handmade and there's not very many of them. The main problem with fuel cell is it's got platinum in it. Platinum is the precious metal that makes it work. It's a very expensive metal. And so that's why costs are always very high with those vehicles. Is there, go.
Are these trucks customized, like, does somebody order them, or does a fleet order them, or do you build them on spec? Like, you build a bunch of them and hope they sell?
We build nothing on spec, and that's the key. We are the industry leader in option content. So like I said, you saw the different models, and then you saw the different sleepers. We got 5 different kinds of seats, 3 different kinds of steering wheels, 2 sets of axles, 2 engines. It comes out to about 33,000 options you have for a Peterbilt truck. Now we're going to want 6 weeks of advance notice because it all gets selected automatically. And just today, a guy came up to me and said, you know, I got a truck 4 weeks out. Can I change the transmission to an automatic? And I'm just like, nope, can't do it. It's so bad. The automatics came in. You just mentioned automated manual came in. It was a 1-digit part number change on an engine part number that was this long. And I did it. I did a 3 instead of 4, and I got a manual transmission. I got a truck I couldn't use, and I got a lot of crap for it. Then I had to sell it, and then I had to build a new one. So we are the option leader.
How
question is, how many gallons does a general truck carry, diesel? How far can you go on a tank of diesel? And what brand of tires do you go with your company? Is it mixed? And do you have a tote to know program?
I'm not sure about right. The question was how many gallons can we put on a truck? Typically, we can go up to about 260 gallons is the max that you get. Otherwise, you get a really long truck. We can keep on going. I'll put as much as you want. I'll make it as long as you want. You can't drive it. It weighs way too much. But typically, a long distance truck will be about 260 gallons, and we're running right now about 8 miles per gallon. So that's where you see that. The other question about tires, we do Goodyears and we do Michelin. So you get to pick your tire. You get to pick your size of your tire. And then you get to pick your rolling resistance of your tire. So everything you want. It's really interesting, you know, that the government came in and said, to be our program, you've got to have low rolling resistance tires. Well, that's okay. So we had it. Problem with low rolling resistance tires is they're soft. And so they're going to run out at about 8,000 miles and you'll be getting a new tire. Whereas your older tires, the harder tires, are just now getting down to where they have the rolling resistance of the good tires, and they're going to last a lot longer. So just because the government tells you to do something, it may not make a lot of sense. I'm just telling you. It's just kind of a guideline. Sorry about that. Let me get that guy right there, sir.
Bill, you talked about just in time. During this pandemic, this 8 months we've been through the pandemic, we have seen a tremendous shortage in manufacturing facilities that use just-in-time methodology. Talk to us about the impact, if any, that has had on the Peterbilt manufacturing process.
Well, we actually shut down for 4 weeks as we retooled our factory. We didn't retool it. We made it COBRA friendly. So we put down partitions down the middle of the trucks so that people working on the left side don't mess with people on the right side. We drew out lines on the deal where people could sit there and they had to work in different areas. If you're within a certain, you wear your mask all the time. We have the infrared thermometers when you come in the gate. You wear your mask all the time. And if you can't get away from somebody that's 6 feet away, then you have to wear a clear plastic shield. And so that really took us 4 weeks to get that done. And then it rolled out to our subcontractors. And that's where the problem was, because we got a lot of parts down in Mexico. We got a lot of parts that come from different areas. And so, but they were able to retool within that 4 weeks also. And so we had very little slowdown in the manufacturing of a truck. Because believe me, if we have a part that goes, you'll see, we can't stop the assembly line. We're going to make 140 trucks a day, and if they all don't have headlights, they don't have headlights. And then we'll work on them as we can to get the headlights put into them and get them back out and to sell those trucks. But we had this month has been one of the best months in history for truck sales. Because we do, when you follow the housing market, that really pretty much predicts how the Peterbilt truck is going to do. Because all those vocations and things like that, we bring materials. And so therefore, if you see the trucks moving, there's a lot of materials being brought in. Sir?
All right. Most of the truckers I know, they prefer a manual transmission. They think the engine lasts longer, but I've also heard that automatic. What's, from an engineer standpoint, what's going to make the truck last longer? A manual transmission that can operate correctly or an automatic?
Well, what we do, we have automated manual transmissions. So it's the same transmission. We just take the gear shift off of it. We put an XY cross shifter on top of it, and it does all the shifts perfectly when needed at maximum fuel economy, better than any driver can ever do. Now the driver will wear out he'll wear out the clutch is what he'll wear out because he's not using it. And so he'll be sitting there dry shifting it. But the main thing is it's boring. It is boring driving an automated manual truck because you don't do anything. That going around the corner with a 40-foot trailer, you know, and you're sitting there shifting gears, matching RPMs, looking out for everything. That's a pretty exciting life. I remember when I learned to drive my first few months of the deal, and the engineer went with his teacher, he goes, "You went to A&M?" He goes, "You should be better at this than you." I'm like, "I'm trying, man." But it's just, a truck is a beautiful woman, and it's not going to move unless it wants to. And you will come to a stop until you re-engage the clutch brake and you get back in gear, and then it will go. So, anything else? Yes, sir.
I was on Interstate 10 about 6 weeks ago heading west in Louisiana. And we noticed backup on on the eastbound traffic, and I clocked it on my odometer, and Interstate 10 was a parking lot heading east for 7 miles.
Yeah.
7 miles. Is anybody in the technology business trying to figure out a way to keep that kind of backup from happening? Or are the trucks restricted to I-10? They can't go east-west anyplace else, so there's no place to bail out?
Well, your navigation screen, your navigation system will help you predict if you've got some bad traffic coming up ahead, that you can avoid it long-term or long range. Just recently, if you saw it, you probably didn't see it, but we had dedicated short-range communication frequencies by the FCC that were going to allow us to transmit between trucks, or between every vehicle was going to transmit its location, position, and tell you if you had a problem, someone stopped in front of you or someone was crossing in front of you. It's a great technology, but we can never do it. It never got mandated by the government. And the automotive industry is not going to do it unless they're mandated. But everybody could have had these $200 radios in their car, and it would be like a transponder on an airplane that would give you a warning that you got traffic coming up. I almost ran into somebody coming down here, and I've got adaptive cruise control in my car because I can't tell you how much I hate I-35 West. It's just, I always have. And that shows how much I care for you, Shawnee. I'm just telling you. But yeah, that's the key. The main part there, though, is you just sat in traffic for 3 hours, and that counts against your guy's driving time. And so now he can only drive 5 more hours. And so he's going to get pushed into delivering them to the next day. And so it just cascades from that one little accident. What happens? And again, I-10, there's nowhere to go. You're stuck on those bridges forever. So, yes, sir.
Tell us about the market change in the last 90 days. You got the fuel cells, you got the battery as compared to a year ago. Which one's growing the most compared to a year ago?
I think what you really see now is everybody wants to do fuel cells. I mean, we were out there, and you've seen the Kenworth truck. It's working with Toyota. A lot of opportunities there, because if you think about putting a fuel cell in a car versus in a truck, it's got to go everywhere in a car, whereas we can co-locate everything in a truck fairly easy. But since that time, now we got Hyundai, we got Cummins, we got Plug Power, we got Loop Energy, everybody, Nikola, everybody wants to get into the fuel cell business. And so that's the biggest change right now. The electric trucks right now, they're ready to go. They're just expensive, and the infrastructure is expensive. Right now, we do what we do, DC fast charging. So we can charge a truck as fast as the charger will go, because it's such a big battery. We can't hurt it. If you plug a car into one of our big chargers, you'll blow the batteries up. But we have less than 1C charging, so we can take a lot of charge. And so we can get to the big trucks in about an hour, hour and a half, back up. Batteries are really cool because they go straight up, 80% state of charge within an hour, but then they trickle off for the next 3 hours. And so you sit there and you stagger those trucks where they're hitting that high peak, but you're still going to be down for 2 hours while you wait for that truck. Is that a key? Is she bringing the hook? Bring the hook?
Yes, but wait 1 second. So it is the tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to donate a book plate in your honor today. We thank you so much for braving I-35, and thank you, Sean, for bringing him. That was a very interesting program. But this is a copy of the book plate that will be donated to the library.
Okay.
And that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And once again, we want to thank our sponsor for today, Nightway Services. Thank you, Richard and Marcus. We appreciate your sponsorship. Nightway Services is a local and family-owned business based in Fort Worth since 2003. Their mission is to provide the highest quality residential waste collection and recycling services that are environmentally responsible and cost-effective. The company values the Fort Worth community it works in and its employees. Thank you again for your sponsorship. What began with 14 trucks has grown into a fleet of 31 compressed natural gas powered environmentally friendly vehicles, which we now know are refuge trucks. They are not garbage trucks. And they also have their own CNG fueling station. KWS are active participants in environmental stewardship, continuously seeking out new opportunities to reduce our environmental impact and provide an efficient waste recovery service. Thank you. Next up, we have our Oh, our reminder that you too can be a sponsor, either virtually or in person. So contact Shanna Saldana for details on becoming a sponsor. All right, next week's meeting will be an update on the stockyards development. So please be sure and RSVP with Aurora if you would like to be here. We would love to see you here, but you can also participate via Zoom. All right, and we'll bring our Zoom people up, but don't forget to vote by December the 10th. That is next Thursday. Please vote for your next slate of Rotary board members. And here are our friends. Hi, friends. Hi, everybody on Zoom. One day we will all get to be together, but until then, we will see you on Zoom.
And Courtney, before you ring the bell, please, everybody write some cards to the crew members of the USS Fort Worth. We really need your help to make this happen. Those cards need to go out this coming week to be able to get to the ship in time for the holiday. So thank you very much.
And yes, thank you for that reminder, Jim. Please fill out a card or two to thank our crew of the USS Fort Worth. And also, don't forget, it is time to renew. Your due statements have been mailed, so watch out for the post box. We went old school and we mailed them. So watch out for your dues reminder. And with that, we are adjourned.